Hi, welcome to Sacred Living. My name is Michele Paiva, and today we're going to be talking about shame versus guilt. So shame versus guilt, what is it all about? So we're going to talk mainly about sexuality right now because most of the viewers are going to be female, and many of you will have had some kind of a sexual assault or sexual shame in some way. So shame and guilt are usually hand in hand together, and guilt means I goofed up, I did something wrong, I made a mistake, so I have guilt. Maybe you lied or you did something in your life where you are feeling like you did something wrong. Okay, that would be guilt. Shame is more that you're not worthy. Shame is sort of saying, I don't deserve, okay? Now, when shame and guilt come together, it's very dangerous. And this often happens when there is some kind of a sexual assault, especially if you had some kind of an assault as a child where you trusted the person who was the perpetrator, and the person who attacked you or pushed themselves or manipulated you. So you might have felt where maybe it was a father, a stepfather, an uncle, a friend of the family, whoever, you might have felt that they were telling you, hey, I love you, don't tell so-and-so, I just want you to feel good, I love you so much, that's why I'm doing this. They might have said really horrible things to you where you're feeling as a child, maybe this is the way life is. This doesn't feel right, but maybe this is the way life is, but you knew something was wrong and you felt a sense of, because you were involved, that maybe you did something wrong. So you might feel guilt. And then you might feel shame that, why you? Why did you have to have your innocence taken away? Or why did this have to happen to you? So shame and guilt really can reside within us. And especially with shame, we feel that everybody can see it. So when we look in the mirror, we see the shame. We think that we're not attractive. We think that we are not worthy. So some women, if they've had these types of experiences young, they just think, well, that's what I'm worth. I'm just a blow-up doll, so I'm just going to be promiscuous. And they don't maybe say that, but they feel it. And it's subconscious, and they go on to be promiscuous sometimes their whole lives, looking for love, oddly, but not being able to find it because they're just focused on just abusing their body because that's all they know, because that's really all they know. They only know that love means being hurt, so they connect those two. So they may actually start dating someone who treats them horrible, and they might think, well, this is the way it is. And then they know that it's not right, and they're still looking for someone else, and they look like they're promiscuous because they're with somebody, and maybe they're flirting with other people, but all they're trying to do is find love, and they just don't get that really what's happening is they're wrapped up in this cocoon of shame. So then there's this other camp of women, and there's also the women in between, but there's this other camp of women who just totally disconnect. Now, here's the interesting thing. You could actually be very promiscuous and still be physically disconnected. Many of my clients who have been very promiscuous actually have never even had an orgasm, and they don't feel any kind of sense of physical expression of love or joy or bliss at all. And so what they're feeling is just, well, they're getting a little bit lubricated and they're making the man happy, and so that must be what a good relationship is. Well, doesn't that sound a lot like abuse, right? So when you're feeling a sense of shame and there's guilt, or even without guilt, you might start to internalize it. So you might not express it, and you might feel that you're wearing it on your sleeve and that everybody can see it, and you feel ugly and you don't feel good enough. And then you start to, because that's your internal thought and that's your worldview, you start to act in those ways. So you might not do the things that your peers are doing that are self-love and making, better decisions in life, and because they value themselves. You might not be in that place. You might think that you're making good decisions based upon what you have available. But really what happens is you keep making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision because you don't know that you should love yourself enough to make a better decision. And sometimes you make really great decisions and they don't feel right. And then you start to feel bored. Like maybe you're with a guy who treats you really great and he really loves you, but you start to feel like, he's kind of boring. I like this or that. Or maybe you can't put your finger on it. You just know that it doesn't feel right. And what happens is you're self-sabotaging. And so I'm not saying that every time you don't feel right in a relationship that you're self-sabotaging, but if you can't find what is wrong with that relationship, you might be self-sabotaging if it just doesn't feel right and you feel bored. So don't go from feelings, really look at facts in the relationship. Is your relationship going well? Is he treating you well? If you're just feeling not into him and he's doing all the right things, really maybe go to a therapist, because you might need to focus on you. A lot of times women, especially if there was abuse in the past, even if it was 10 years ago, even if it was something that was a sexual assault or whatever, especially though if it was childhood, whether it was sexual abuse or emotional mental, you may feel that you can't trust people, and you might have a history of people doing the same types of things to you. And so you need to forgive the past and move on, but at the same time, you need to honor that you are of value. It's so important. So even though you have stuff going on and people will say, well, I'm broken, or I this or that, you're still of value. And you need to start acting of you. A little tip right now. So if you're internalizing that you're not of value, you might have a weight issue, or you might have some decisions that you're making that aren't really in your best interest, or you might be putting yourself last, or picking the wrong people to be friends with, or whatever. You just pick that thing that's really bothering you right now, okay? And so the first way to address self-love and to take back your power is to start to look at what is that one thing. So if it's weight, instead of looking for the next diet drink or the next probiotic and all of these, the liver cleanses and everything else, and they're all fine if you want to do them, but if you're thinking that these are the things that are going to fix you, you are self-sabotaging, because what's going to help you is to trust your body. So for most women, the number one thing that they don't have, especially when they're dieting and working out a lot, and I mean overworking out, you know, if you feel that you have to walk 10 miles a day, or you feel like you have to do XYZ in order to get to something, in a drastic way. I don't mean that if it's something you enjoy and you love it, that you can't do it. I'm talking about if you're in an orthorexia space where you're married to the idea of, you know, I have to drink a bulletproof coffee in order to lose weight, or I have to put coconut oil in my smoothie, or I don't know what's going to happen, or I didn't drink enough kale today, or eat enough kale today, whatever it is. If you're obsessing over the rituals of health, then you're not trusting yourself. Your body knows what to do. Believe it or not, you don't need a guru. Your body, your cells already are going to work with or without the gurus, with or without the concoctions and the potions and lotions. Your body knows what to do. So self-care is about trusting yourself, trusting your body. So just because you were abused and you were treated horribly and you didn't trust your body in those times, and that you didn't trust your mind in those times, and that maybe as you tried to heal, you felt that you disconnected from other people and you didn't trust people as much, and therefore you didn't trust yourself as much, then your not trusting yourself is actually the number one problem. So situations happen to us, okay? A rape might be 3 minutes to 3 hours, but you know what? You have a lot of time in your life. You have a lot of beauty in your life. You have way more hours of being a sacred being than being someone who was abused. You have way more minutes to come that are filled with healing. So take that power back and really honor yourself, because when you're honoring yourself and you're trusting yourself, you're going to start making decisions that are about you and about your inner light. And that's so important. So think about, if you need to get back to you more, find someone to talk to, connect to other people, maybe join a support group, and start doing things for you that are about you. Don't push off your self-help. Don't push off your medical or mental health because you think that you got it all together. Okay, if you're not happy, definitely get help. There's help out there, and there's online groups. I have an online group. There's online groups for you with life coaches and therapists. There's plenty out there. There's plenty of books. There's libraries if you can't afford a book. Even if you've made bad decisions in your life and you have horrible bills at the library and you're not allowed to take a book out, you're still allowed to walk in and read. I mean, no one's going to stop you from being the best you can be as long as you make little steps at getting there. So don't let anything hold you back. That's why I'm bringing up some like random things that sound like I'm going off, on tangents, but I already know that people often have excuses and they confuse excuses with reasons. So lifting the shame and seeing that the guilt and the shame do not need to be internalized by you. You don't have to internalize it and have weight gain and have layers and layers of protection, because all of that protection and all of that internalizing disconnects you from other people, from finding love, and from loving yourself and trusting yourself. And every day that goes by that you're internalizing and not loving yourself the way that you should, every single day you're practicing self-loathing, not self-loving. So lifting the shame is really a part of loving yourself and trusting yourself.